The scorching African sun beats down mercilessly on a landscape that would be utterly alien to modern eyes, yet achingly familiar in its raw, untamed beauty. 4.7 million years ago, the world pulses with a different rhythm, one measured not in seconds or minutes but in the desperate heartbeats of creatures clinging to existence on the knife's edge between life and death. In this primordial theater, humanity's greatest ancestors are about to face trials that will forge the very essence of what it means to survive. Across the sprawling savannas of what we now call Ethiopia, a small band of early hominids moves with the cautious grace of beings who understand that every moment could be their last. These are not the humans we know today, but something far more extraordinary. Our direct ancestors walking upright through a world that seems determined to crush them beneath its unforgiving weight. Their faces, weathered by constant exposure to elements that know no mercy, carry the weight of an intelligence that is just beginning to spark into something revolutionary. The matriarch of this small family group pauses at the edge of a dried riverbed, her keen eyes scanning the horizon with an intensity that speaks of countless close encounters with death. Her name is lost to time, but her legacy will echo through millions of years. In her arms, she cradles an infant whose very existence represents a miracle of survival in a world where death stalks every shadow. The child's large, expressive eyes reflect a curiosity that will one day drive entire species to explore every corner of the earth. But today, those same eyes hold the innocent vulnerability of a being whose survival depends entirely on the wisdom and strength of those who protect him. Behind them, the rest of the group follows in a formation that speaks to hard-won experience. The adult males move with a predatory alertness, their powerful frames coiled like springs, ready to explode into action at the first sign of danger. Their hands, more human than ape, yet still bearing the powerful grip strength of their tree-dwelling ancestors, clutch crude stone tools that represent the cutting edge of technology in this ancient world. These tools, chipped and shaped through trial and error, are the difference between life and starvation, between protection and helpless vulnerability. The landscape around them tells a story of dramatic change that has been unfolding for millennia. Where once dense forests stretched endlessly toward distant horizons, now open grasslands dominate the view, dotted with isolated clusters of trees that stand like lonely sentinels in an ocean of golden grass. This transformation has not been gentle. It has been a violent reshaping of the world that has demanded everything from those who wish to survive within it. The great forests are retreating, taking with them the safety of the canopy and forcing these early hominids to adapt or perish in ways their ancestors never could have imagined. As the group moves across this transformed landscape, the ground beneath their feet tells its own tale of struggle and change. The red earth, baked hard by relentless heat, bears the imprints of countless creatures that have passed this way before them. Some of these tracks speak of prey, the delicate hoofprints of early antelopes whose speed and agility represent potential sustenance for those clever enough to hunt them. Others tell more ominous stories, the massive pad marks of saber-toothed predators whose very existence turns every moment of inattention into a potential death sentence. The matriarch's nostrils flare as she catches a scent that sends a chill of recognition down her spine. Somewhere in the distance, carried on the hot wind that never seems to cease, is the unmistakable musk of a pack of hunting hyenas. These are not the scavenging opportunists that will evolve in later eras, but massive, bone-crushing predators whose cooperative hunting strategies make them one of the most feared threats on the ancient African plains. The scent grows stronger, more immediate, and the matriarch's hand tightens protectively around her infant as she signals silently to the others. The group's response is immediate and coordinated, a testament to survival strategies honed through generations of constant peril. Without a word being spoken, for their language consists more of gestures, expressions, and primitive vocalizations than the complex speech that will emerge millions of years later, they shift into a defensive formation that maximizes their chances of survival while never abandoning the most vulnerable members of their community. The elderly female, who has lived through more dangers than any of them can remember, takes a position that allows her to shield the young while still contributing her invaluable experience to the group's collective awareness. As they move, each step is calculated, each movement deliberate. Their bipedal locomotion, still somewhat awkward compared to the effortless stride that future humans will develop, nonetheless provides them with advantages that may mean the difference between survival and extinction. Standing upright, allows them to see over the tall grasses that could conceal deadly predators, to spot distant resources that could sustain them through lean times, and to use their hands for tool manipulation and carrying while maintaining their mobility across the challenging terrain. The infant in the matriarch's arms begins to whimper softly, sensing the tension that radiates from every adult in the group. This small sound, barely audible above the whisper of wind through grass, represents both the greatest vulnerability and the most precious hope of their small community. In a world where infant mortality claims the vast majority of those born, every child who survives represents not just individual triumph, but the continuation of a genetic line that has been fighting for existence since life first emerged from ancient seas. The hyena scent grows stronger still, and now they can hear the distant sounds of the pack, low growls and the occasional sharp bark that coordinates their hunting strategy. These predators, with their crushing jaws and pack mentality, represent everything that makes survival in this ancient world a daily struggle against seemingly insurmountable odds. Unlike the solitary big cats that will also threaten these early hominids, hyenas hunt with a collective intelligence that makes them particularly dangerous to small groups of prey. But our ancestors are not defenseless. One of the younger males in the group, his body scarred from previous encounters with predators, raises his stone tool and demonstrates the kind of innovative thinking that will eventually lead to space travel and genetic engineering. He begins to strike rocks together, creating a shower of sparks that, while not yet capable of creating controlled fire, produces bright flashes and sharp sounds that can sometimes drive away curious predators. The technique requires perfect timing and tremendous courage. Get it wrong, and the display of light and sound might actually attract more dangerous attention rather than deterring it. The group's survival strategy unfolds like a carefully choreographed dance of desperation and hope. They move toward a cluster of acacia trees that represents their best chance of defensive positioning, but the journey requires crossing open ground where they will be completely exposed to any predators that might be tracking them. The matriarch makes the decision that will determine whether her infant lives to see another sunset, and the weight of that choice is visible in every line of her weathered face. As they begin their dash across the open savanna, the true magnificence of these early hominids becomes apparent. Their bodies, evolved through millions of years of natural selection, represent the perfect balance between the arboreal adaptations of their forest-dwelling ancestors and the terrestrial requirements of their grassland existence. Their legs, longer and more muscular than those of their tree-swinging cousins, carry them across the ground with the efficiency that belies their seemingly awkward gait. Their arms, still longer than those of modern humans, provide them with the reach and strength necessary to wield tools effectively while maintaining the climbing ability that may save their lives when ground-level escape routes are cut off. The hyena's calls grow closer, more urgent, and now the acrid smell of their musk mingles with another scent that sends terror racing through the group, the distinctive odor of fresh blood. Somewhere nearby, these predators have made a kill, and their feeding frenzy has attracted other scavengers who will compete fiercely for whatever remains. This creates both opportunity and danger for our small group of hominids. The distraction of feeding might allow them to pass by unnoticed, but it also means that numerous dangerous predators are concentrated in the area, any one of which could decide that fresh prey is preferable to sharing a carcass. The infant's cries grow more insistent, his primitive nervous system registering the fear and tension that surrounds him. The matriarch knows that these sounds could betray their location to hunting predators, but she also understands that attempting to silence the child forcibly could cause even more distressing noises. Instead, she employs a strategy that demonstrates the sophisticated social behavior already emerging in these early hominids. She passes the infant to another female in the group, one whose scent and manner can provide different comfort and potentially calm the frightened child. This simple act of cooperation represents something revolutionary in the history of life on Earth. While many species care for their own offspring with devoted intensity, the willingness to entrust one's most precious genetic investment to another individual speaks to a level of social cohesion and mutual trust that will become one of humanity's greatest strengths. The second female accepts the infant with gentle confidence, immediately beginning to provide the kind of comfort and security that can mean the difference between survival and catastrophic exposure to predators. The group reaches the cluster of acacia trees just as the first hyenas appear on the distant horizon, their distinctive silhouettes unmistakable against the golden grassland. These trees, with their thorny branches and sturdy trunks, offer both refuge and vantage points from which to assess the developing threat. But climbing to safety means abandoning the tools and resources they have gathered, and in a world where every stone implement and every scrap of food could mean the difference between life and death, such decisions carry enormous weight. The lead male of the group, his graying hair marking him as one who has survived longer than most in this dangerous world, makes a choice that demonstrates the kind of strategic thinking that will eventually lead to agriculture, medicine, and civilization itself. Rather than fleeing immediately to the safety of the upper branches, he positions himself where he can observe the approaching hyenas while remaining ready to either climb or fight, depending on how the situation develops. His stone tool, crude by modern standards but representing the cutting edge of technology in this ancient world, remains ready in his powerful grip. The hyenas approach with the confidence of apex predators, who have learned that few creatures in this landscape can effectively oppose them. Their powerful builds, designed for crushing bones and tearing through the toughest hides, make them formidable opponents for any creature unlucky enough to face them. But they have not yet learned to fear the strange upright creatures who wield rocks with deadly accuracy and who coordinate their defensive efforts with an intelligence that rivals their own pack-hunting strategies. As the tension reaches its peak, something extraordinary happens that will echo through millions of years of human evolution. The infant, now calm in the arms of his surrogate caretaker, reaches out with tiny fingers toward one of the stone tools, his developing brain already beginning to recognize these objects as extensions of the bodies that wield them. This moment, seemingly insignificant in the face of immediate mortal danger, represents one of the earliest manifestations of the tool-making intelligence that will eventually allow humans to reshape the entire planet. The hyenas pause at the edge of effective striking distance, their keen intelligence recognizing something different about these potential prey animals. Unlike the antelopes and other herbivores they usually hunt, these creatures show no signs of panic or flight. Instead, they maintain a coordinated defensive posture that suggests they might be more dangerous than their relatively small size would indicate. The lead hyena, a massive female whose battle scars speak of countless successful hunts, tilts her head as she assesses this unusual situation. This moment of hesitation provides our ancestors with the opportunity they need to demonstrate another crucial aspect of early human survival strategy: the use of intimidation and display to avoid direct confrontation with superior predators. The males of the group begin to make themselves appear larger and more threatening, raising their arms above their heads while brandishing their stone tools in coordinated patterns that create the impression of a much more formidable opponent than the hyenas initially perceived. The sounds they make are unlike anything else in the African wilderness, a combination of vocalizations that blend elements of their forest-dwelling ancestors' calls with new innovations that will eventually evolve into human language. These sounds carry not just immediate meaning for members of their own group, but also serve to communicate their determination to fight to any predators who might be evaluating them as potential prey. The message is clear: these creatures will not die easily, and the cost of attacking them might be higher than any potential reward. The standoff continues as the African sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds that seem to set the entire world ablaze. In this light, the ancient landscape takes on an almost mystical quality, as if the very air is charged with the significance of the moment being played out between these two groups of highly intelligent predators. The outcome of this encounter will determine not just whether a small family of early hominids survives another day, but whether the genetic line that will eventually produce every human being who has ever lived continues into an uncertain future. The infant, seemingly oblivious to the mortal drama surrounding him, continues to reach toward the stone tools with an persistence that speaks to instincts already emerging in his developing brain. His small fingers, more dexterous than those of any other creature alive in this ancient world, seem to understand at some primitive level that these carefully shaped rocks represent something more than mere objects. They are the keys to survival in a world that offers no mercy to the unprepared or the unlucky. As if responding to some signal invisible to human observers, the hyenas suddenly lose interest in the small group of hominids and turn their attention toward easier prey that has appeared in the distance. A small herd of early horses, their elegant forms perfectly adapted to life on the open grasslands, has emerged from behind a low hill and now grazes peacefully within striking distance of the predator pack. The hyena's decision is swift and practical. Why risk injury fighting determined opponents when easier prey presents itself? The relief that washes over the group of early hominids is almost palpable, but it is tempered by the knowledge that this reprieve is temporary. In a world where predators are constantly hunting, and where every source of food is contested by numerous competitors, safety is always an illusion that can be shattered by the next moment's developments. The matriarch reclaims her infant from the other female, but her eyes continue to scan the horizon for signs of new threats, even as she acknowledges the temporary nature of their good fortune. The successful defense against the hyenas marks more than just another day survived in the brutal lottery of prehistoric existence. It represents a crucial step in the development of the cooperative behaviors and technological innovations that will eventually allow humans to become the dominant species on Earth. The way the group coordinated their defensive strategy, the manner in which they used tools and intimidation displays to avoid direct confrontation with superior predators, and most importantly, the social cohesion that allowed them to protect their most vulnerable members while maintaining their collective safety. All of these factors point toward the emergence of something genuinely new in the history of life on our planet. As darkness begins to fall across the African savanna, the group settles into their nighttime defensive positions among the protective branches of the acacia trees. Sleep in this world is always light and intermittent, interrupted frequently by the sounds of nocturnal predators and the need to maintain constant vigilance against threats that emerge from every shadow. But even in these moments of relative rest, the bonds that hold the group together continue to strengthen, creating the foundation for the complex social structures that will eventually support cities, nations, and global civilizations. The infant, finally at peace in his mother's arms, represents all the hope and vulnerability of our species' earliest days. His survival through this day of mortal peril brings him one step closer to reproductive maturity, one step closer to passing on the genetic heritage that connects him to every human being who will ever live. In his small, developing brain, neural pathways are forming that will allow him to use tools, to communicate complex ideas, and to cooperate with others in ways that will eventually transform the entire planet. But survival in this ancient world requires more than just avoiding predators and finding adequate food sources. It demands constant adaptation to changing environmental conditions that can shift from abundance to scarcity with devastating suddenness. The group's territory, which has provided them with adequate resources through recent seasons, shows signs of the ongoing climate changes that are reshaping the African continent. Stream beds that once flowed year-round now run dry for months at a time, forcing lengthy and dangerous journeys to reach reliable water sources. The fruit trees that once provided easy sustenance are becoming increasingly sparse as the great forests continue their retreat in the face of expanding grasslands. These environmental challenges demand innovations in both technology and social organization that push these early hominids to the very limits of their adaptive capabilities. The crude stone tools that served adequately for previous generations must now be refined and improved to handle new tasks, digging for underground water sources, processing tougher plant materials, and defending against predators that have grown more desperate as their own food sources become scarce. Every improvement in tool design represents hours of experimentation and countless failures, but also brings them closer to the technological sophistication that will eventually allow humans to thrive in every environment on Earth. The group's social dynamics also continue to evolve in response to these mounting pressures. Leadership roles that once might have been determined purely by physical strength or age now require individuals who can think strategically about resource allocation, who can remember the locations of seasonal food sources, and who can coordinate group activities with increasing sophistication. The matriarch's position as the group's primary decision-maker stems not just from her experience and wisdom, but from her demonstrated ability to balance the needs of individuals against the survival requirements of the community as a whole. As the first stars appear in the darkening sky above the African savanna, they shine down on creatures who stand at one of the most crucial turning points in the history of life on Earth. These early hominids, struggling to survive in a world that seems designed to destroy them, carry within their genes and their developing cultures the seeds of everything humanity will eventually become. Their daily battles against predators, their innovations in tool use, their increasingly sophisticated social cooperation, All of these elements are combining to create something entirely new in the 4 billion-year history of life on our planet. The infant sleeps peacefully in his mother's arms, his small chest rising and falling with the rhythm of a life that has successfully navigated another day in the most dangerous world any human ancestor ever faced. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new threats, and new opportunities for both disaster and triumph. But tonight, under the vast canopy of stars that have witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, this small family of early hominids represents all the hope and determination that will eventually carry their descendants to every corner of the earth and beyond, into the very cosmos that watches over their struggle for survival in humanity's earliest chapter.